All right, friends, good afternoon. This is Bob Tarter with Animalogy. I want to thank you for joining us with the Williamson County Public Library and WCTV. We're going to go ahead and show you one of our fall special lineup this year. Now, we're going to get out our individual animals that are going to show you how they're getting ready for fall and the upcoming season of winter for us. So I hope you're ready to enjoy the program today. Remember, if you have any questions or comments, you can always reach us online at animalogy.org or follow us on Facebook at nhecm.animalogy.org. Our first individual today is going to be two weird creatures that are following the creepy crawly fall theme for us. And with our first one we're going to get out today, I want you all to meet our little girl, Diane. And Diane here is the Australian leaf insect. And what she shows you is the amazing animal adaptation of mimicry. And when she sits very still, she curls up the back part of her body, the thorax, looking just like a leaf. And she can stick still to blend into the background for us. Sometimes even if my voice gets around her, she will even pretend to blow in the breeze just like the leaves. Now this little animal here, whenever we look at something, we always want to classify what kind of consumer we're looking at. And this is an animal that eats only plant tissue. This is our herbivore for the day. But what this one has, besides being an herbivore, is a very unique difference between the boys and the girls, the males and the female. It is called sexual dimorphism. Now this little girl here is not completely full grown. You can see that behavior we're talking about where she's hitting a little bit of the air conditioning. She blows in the breeze, just like a leaf would if she would be outside. That side to side behavior is trying to blend in. A very good job of that mimicry for us. Now, the difference between boys and girls is called that sexual dimorphism. This is definitely our female, to where our male is going to look different. The males have the ability of flight, our females do not. Now, with this little insect here is as an animal gets ready for fall, there's one of two things you can do. You can either get ready to make your young, or you need to prepare for it. And what she's going to do is she's going to start laying her eggs. This animal here is not going to find enough food to survive over the winter, even in her natural habitat. This is the Australian leaf insect. These animals only live about 9 to maybe 10 to 11 months. They will never be able to live over a year. And this female here will lay eggs. Even if she does not have a male around her, she can clone her own body parts and lay eggs. And this species will be able to overwinter in egg form, and then in the spring they hatch out for us. So what we have is the Australian leaf insect using that wonderful animal adaptation and mimicry, even blending into the background and cloning her own body in the absence of the male. For those of you that follow us online, we had the first reported case of that happening with a ball python at the St. Louis Zoo. A female ball python that has not been around a male in over a decade and a half laid fertile eggs earlier this year. Now you can see the male here is going to be a lot smaller than the female. That's that sexual dimorphism. And you can also see, and hopefully he doesn't show it for you right now, this animal has the ability of flight. The males will fly around trying to find the females, where the females will be bigger and hang around their normal spot. He will use his antennae here to be able to sense out that female. So the difference between boys and girls, males and females, is sexual dimorphism. Both of these are the same age. You can see that she is much larger than him. And even in the absence of a male, they will not have normal reproduction. They will be able to clone her own body. And the only other animal that I know that readily does that is going to be the Kimono Dragon. Kimono dragons can be living on islands outside of Japan, and if she doesn't have a male with her, she will go ahead and clone her own body, her own DNA, and lay eggs exactly like herself for us. So that our first exhibit of the day is going to be our herbivore. The teachable moment of is that animal mimicry, as well as that adaptation to be able to generate your own offspring in the absence of that other male. Now we're going to go out and get our next one, which again follows the fall theme this year. I want you to look at our little girl, Rosie. Rosie here is our Chilean rose tarantula, and she looks so beautiful right now because actually 2 days ago my daughter was helping me do chores around my house, and she went to go give Rosie some extra water, and she said, "Dad, there's 2 tarantulas in there." And I said, "There shouldn't be." Rosie here actually shed her exoskeleton. That's the difference between our insects and arthropods than humans. Our skeletal system is on the inside of their body. Theirs is on the outside. And you can see how beautiful she looks. In the center part of her body is where she gets that rose tinge to it, where they get the rose hair tarantula. So at our house right now, and we'll be able to do our live events with this next, is the middle part of this exoskeleton popped open. She climbed out of it and she grew a new one for us. And we have the old exoskeleton there. Now this one is going to be one of these animals, even though you may think she's creepy and crawly, is going to be an important exhibit because they are going to keep our pest populations in check. So our spiders here are going to help us out. The cool thing about this little one is if we start off here with a little bit of math, count the legs with me. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What kind of weird spider did I bring you that has 10 legs? And this is what is cool about every animal has that adaptation. These 2 shorter legs in here in the front are actually modified mouth parts that are used to hold on to that prey. And right underneath the front part is her fangs, where she stabs it into it, injecting a venom that liquefies the inside of the body, and then they drink up their food at a later date. They kill their prey, but they don't eat it for a while for us. Now, this little girl has actually been with us for over 5 years. As a household classroom pet, spiders can live 8 to 10 years without any problem for us. They will shed that exoskeleton, but we're looking at a different consumer. The Australian leaf insect is our herbivore. This one here is certainly our carnivore. They're going to be eating only other animals, and they're very helpful to us. The hair on her body will alert her of a predator. That's why whenever I'm talking, I have to make sure that my breath doesn't go across her body, because that would make her nervous, and we don't want an animal nervous during the program. So a Chilean rose-haired tarantula, again, one of these cool animals that people have a misconception that they're going to be bad for you. They're going to help you out by keeping our pest animals in check. And they're also going to be important because of our upcoming fall with our Halloween. Now, our next exhibit is going to be another type of consumer for you to see. If I can find them in here for us today. There we go. I have 2 sisters with me today. With this one right here, I have Jane and Jackie. These are our Madagascar hissing cockroaches. Now, the cool thing about this one is these are going to be animals that show that difference between the boys and the girl, the sexual dimorphism. The females are going to be bigger than the males for us, and they tend to be a very calm one. Now, the leaf insect was our herbivore. The tarantula is our carnivore. These animals here are going to be our decomposers. These are ones that are eating all the old vegetable material, all the old plant tissue, decomposing that for us. So even though you may not think these insects are important, they are starting that cycle all over again for us, and that's what's cool. We have more of these kind of animals on the planet than we have of anything else, even though people don't pay attention to them. Now, our roaches here that are in this part of North America are just helping us out, and they are recyclers for us. So there's no reason to be nervous. But you do not want them in your house. I'll admit that for us. The Madagascar hissing cockroach is one of the largest roaches on the planet. They're going to be found only on the island of Madagascar, and the males have the ability to make this hissing sound. They will chase other males away by that, or that alerts the other females. And we have our females isolated from our males right now because I don't want to have any baby roaches over the course of winter, because these little girls here actually give birth to live young. They do not lay eggs like most of our insects. We talked about the leaf insect laying those eggs in overwinter. These little animals here, our females, will lay eggs inside their body, and they hatch inside their body, and then the live birth come from there, oviparous. Now, Those are three different types of invertebrates serving different function for us. We have our herbivore, our carnivore, and then we have our decomposer. That's going to be an important animal that starts that ecological calendar all over again. Because with fall coming, we see that all the time. All right, friends, we have a new exhibit that is a recent show up at our house at Animalogy Acres in Murray County. This is going to be one of the times that my friends are going to notice Bob is wearing gloves. Usually if Bob wears gloves, that means Bob can get hurt. Now in this specific individual, that's not the case. This little guy just showed up at our house and it was a perfect teaching moment for you to see, and we're going to release him back to the wild as soon as we get done with our recording today. So with this little animal, I want you to notice we're going to be looking at something unique that you can easily find in your backyards if you have your observation skills turned on. Now, my kids have already nicknamed this little guy here Mikko. And when we look at Mikko, you're looking at one of our most unusual and special salamanders of Tennessee. Now, we have multiple species of salamander, and what we have right here is definitely the marble salamander. And you're going to notice, because Mr. Bob is wearing gloves, it's not because I'm worried about him hurting me. I'm worried about me hurting him. Because as a salamander, these amphibians are going to be able to breathe or respirate through their skin. So I don't want to have anything on my hands to give this guy a bad day or a bad reaction. Now we can tell Mikko is a boy because it is a very black and white appearance on his body. If it was black and gray, this would be a female. And that's where we talked about with the leaf insects. That is sexual dimorphism, the difference between the two of them. Now, Mikko here has been helping us out. We've done a few videos with him. You can see this is kind of a chill little lizard. And the cool thing about Mikko is he knows nothing about the coronavirus. Because this little guy here, after February rolled around, by the end of February, early March, Mikko here buried himself in the soil in the woods in our backyard. And he's been hibernating during this entire spring, summer virus issue we have. And he just came out of the ground just the other day. All this extra rain that we've recently had because of the hurricanes is a perfect time for him to come out of the ground. He may have been buried in the soil up to 3 feet deep. And since he's woken up from hibernation, he's come up on the ground, this guy is a voracious eater. We've been feeding him lots of extra worms and even some of the roaches to make sure that we turn him loose. He will be in better shape than when he showed up at our back door. Now, this is what we call a terrestrial salamander. This is an animal that lives on the land. We do have aquatic salamanders, and we've shown them here at the library before. We have the three-toed Amphiuma, as well as the largest salamander in North America is going to be the hellbender. And these are going to be ones that spend their entire lives in the water, where this is going to be an animal that is going to be living close to water, but he lives on the land. Now, the male and female marble salamanders will go ahead and meet each other. They will copulate. The female will lay the eggs in a shallow depression and wait for one of these little rainstorms that we have here in the fall. And their eggs will hatch into the larval, immature versions of themselves, and very quickly they will mature into the subadults for us. That's what's special, because the female will be able to protect her offspring for us. That's what's so unique about it. Most of our salamanders are going to be one of the first reproductions after the new year. The marble salamander is going to be starting his reproduction now for us. Now, we also have the tiger salamander. They're going to be even bigger, and they are going to be black and yellow. But the marble here, I think, is one of the most beautiful, because that wonderful pattern with that black and that white. And little Mikko here has enjoyed seeing our friends, but you can see he is breathing as well as he respirates through the skin on his body. And that's how he's going to change out that carbon dioxide in his body for oxygen for him. Now we're going to go ahead and put up our marbled salamander, which is one of our terrestrial ones. And we're going to go ahead and grab the next exhibit for you to see. With our next exhibit, we're going to change the theme a little bit, but we're still staying with that color scheme of our black and white. And what we have with us today is our California Kingsnake. a very vibrant color pattern to them as we see the fall pattern showing up around us. Now, the difference between snakes and lizards has nothing to do with legs. Over the summer, we showed you the legless lizard. The difference between snakes and lizards comes down to eyelids and ears. And you can see our little California king snake here does not get upset as I get louder around him. And this animal does not have eyelids for us. If you get close enough, you can always see. If I take my finger and I get near this animal's eye, they're not going to be able to blink. Snakes do not have eyelids, lizards do. So if you ever have a snake that's on the ground, it looks at you and it blinks, take its picture. They're actually the legless lizard. And the legless lizard is an endangered species here in the state of Tennessee. North of Cookeville in the Rugby area, we have found 2 in the last calendar years, but unfortunately these were already killed by cars. But the legless lizard is one of those we need to keep an eye on. Difference between snakes and lizards comes down to eyelids and ears. Our little king snake here does not have it, but you can also notice how the entire time we've had him out, he's been sticking out that tongue. He's tasting the air. He's looking for food and looking for predators. Now this snake here, you can see, has this very stocky body shape to it. They don't have the taper that a normal snake would. And that's where we have our king snake here. This is an animal that will eat other snakes as well as venomous snakes. Now, you know of me at Animalogy Acres down in Murray County. I've been living here for over 10 years, and I've never seen a venomous snake on our farm because we allow our snakes to live very well with us. And 2 weeks ago, we saw our friend Steve. Steve is a 6.5-foot eastern chain king snake. That's what we have here in Tennessee. And Steve eats any venomous snake that even thinks about coming on our property. Now, the beautiful, vibrant pattern, especially that belly, always makes me think of like Legos there or Tetris. That's going to give this animal the impression of do not mess with me. Now, the California king snake is a non-venomous creature, and you could tell that because when we look at the eye, you'll be able to see that it has a circle pupil. If you have an oval pupil, looks like a football, you're looking at a venomous snake. If you have a circle pupil here, you're looking at a non-venomous. So he does not have the sense of hearing, cannot blink, but has a wonderful sense of taste with that tongue, as well as that sense of smell. That's the difference. They taste with your tongue, you smell with your nose. Now, fall time here, we're going to see something different than what we see with our salamanders. Our salamanders are going to wake up and become more active. These guys here are your best friend at this time of year. As it starts getting colder outside, the leaves start falling off the trees, all these mice, moles, voles, and rats are going to leave their natural homes and they're going to try and get into your house. Snakes around your house will eat those rodents and stay around your house, so they're not going to hurt you. And then that's going to be best because as things get cooler over the fall and into the winter, they can hibernate right by your homes. They're not going to hurt you. People do not die from venomous snakes. We only have 3 in this part of Tennessee. More people die every year by bees than they do by our snakes. So they're going to be a very helpful animal for us. You don't want snakes around your home. Make sure your house is nice and clean. Your flower beds are all clean. If you make places for rodents, that's where these guys are going to look for. A pile of wood for burning is going to give a mouse a home as well as something like this a home. So our snakes are getting ready to hibernate over winter, where our salamanders are just now coming out of hibernation for us. So we have our California king snake, another beautiful black and white reptile, different from the salamander, who is an amphibian that needs water for reproduction. These guys will live on land. Now we'll get out our next exhibit, and again, Bob's wearing a glove. If Bob wears a glove, that means I can get hurt. I don't want to get hurt. Now, you all have done great for me so far. I'm sorry I can't meet you in person, but if you always have any questions or comments, you can reach me online, and we can discuss our questions from there. This next exhibit we're going to get out is important for fall, because with this one, I want you all to meet Billy the bat. Billy here is our straw-colored fruit bat. Now, this bat here eats things that you like to eat. That's not true of every bat. But we have to remember, everything in the wild has that job or that niche. And the first thing you notice is he either looks like an upside-down chihuahua or a werewolf. And that's where he's going to show you what his niche is. This is going to be a consumer that eats only plant tissue, just like the leaf insects. This is our herbivore for the day. Now, bats are actually the most numerous type of mammal. We have more bat species than we have of anything else on the planet. And this bat here eats good things like you like to eat. He likes to eat bananas, watermelon, apples, pineapple, mangoes. Bats, it doesn't matter what they're going to eat. They have to eat 2 to 2.5 times their body weight in food every night. So Billy here every night eats a pile of kale about this big, a half a sweet potato, an apple, an orange, and a banana, and a bunch of grapes. And that's interesting because as an herbivore, when he goes to the bathroom, that guano is going to be full of lots of nutrients, and they can help us out. But this bat here is just going to be an herbivorous fruit bat that lives in Africa, but they can migrate all the way up in summertime into southern Europe. But our bats that you can still see here in this part of Tennessee are going to be insectivores. They eat only bugs. Now we have 14 species of bats that are found here in Tennessee. Most of them have a wingspan about 5 to 8 inches, about fingertip to fingertip, maybe plus or minus an inch. But what we have to think about is ours are going to be eating only bugs. Now they're not going to have as big of wings. Billy here has an almost 2-foot wingspan, and that's why he eats so much food. But do mosquitoes weigh very much? No. So our bats have to eat about 2,000 to 3,000 mosquitoes almost any given fall night like we have right now, which is a great thing because I don't like mosquitoes. And our bats eat all of these. Now they're going to look different. Billy here, like I said, has this very large nose that gives him a good sense of smell. Large eyes to see well, but watch his ears. His ears are constantly moving, constantly listening. Bats are sociable and they like to be around their own kind. And our bat here will actually fly around at nighttime, following his sense of smell through that nose to find a fruit-producing tree. And when he finds that fruit-producing tree, he's going to land on it and make happy noises, and that will alert all the other friendly bats in the area. And that's where that sense of hearing comes in. Now, this is our herbivore. Our bats are going to be using a different sense. They use echolocation. And we actually do some. If you follow us online with our Parks and Rec department, we do nocturnal back hikes where we can actually walk around with a device that will ID the bats flying overhead. And we can actually even try and call in some owls from our nocturnal hike. So if you're interested with that, just let us know. But what we have to do with our bats is these guys here are going to set out a loud high frequency sound wave. They wait for the echo to come back, and in their mind's eye, they can see a 3-dimensional world around us. And that's how they're going to find those bugs, because you cannot see a black mosquito in the darkness of night. Now, I know it's close to Halloween and we're supposed to be scared, but bats are not scary at all. Bats are some of the most amazing mammal for us. Even though we do have vampire bats on our planet. Vampire bat is one of the most known mammals to actually adopt offspring. In the vampire bat colony, if one of the parents, especially the mother, dies, another vampire bat mama will take on a little baby to make sure they get fed. That's what's so cool. The bat is our only true flying mammal. We have lots of gliding mammals, but the bat is the only true flying one. Now, Billy is our herbivore. Our bats are only insectivores here. We do have carnivorous bats, some that eat fish, some that eat frogs, but the vampire bat is found in our planet. They're not here in North America, though, but they help us out as a beneficial beast because their saliva can actually stop clots, which is important when we deal with brain damage with seizures and strokes. So that's what's so cool. Our wildlife around us is very helpful. We got animals here on the table that are going to be eating rodents that could cause damage to your house. They're decomposing plant material, making soil for us. They're eating bugs you don't want to have around your home, as well as our herbivores are getting that first level of nutrition. Every time we climb a trophic level, animal or somebody's going to eat it, we lose 90%. So we need our herbivores to digest that plant tissue. Hello, friends. We have Elle, our Eurasian Eagle Owl, with us for our finale for our fall animals here. And when we're looking at her, we're definitely looking at our carnivore, but we're looking at the top of the ecosystem. This is one of the greatest predators we have. Now, this looks very similar to our great horned owl that is found here in Tennessee. This is the Eurasian Eagle Owl. Same genus, just different species. Can you let me talk, please? Thank you. Now, what we have here is this owl species is going to be found living in England, east all the way through Europe, through Asia to the Pacific Ocean, all the way up into Siberia, all the way down to the Middle East and India. It is a very widely distributed owl species. And what is special about that is that this is one of our greatest predators in Tennessee, her cousin, the great horned owl, and people never know. Now, for a big bird here, you can see this is a large animal, but she is not as heavy as people think. People always estimate her to be anywhere from 15 to 25 pounds. I don't want to hold that much weight. This bird right here is very heavy right now at 6 pounds. And she's not full grown yet. When she's full grown, she will be 8 to 10 pounds. She also has a 6-foot wingspan that she's going to be able to use to track down and grab a hold of her prey. But the key to understanding an owl's ability to fly is the owl makes no noise when they fly. This animal here is going to be using that mimicry, just like we saw with our leaf insect, blending into the background. She's going to sit very still in the darkness of night, and she's going to listen. Now, her eyesight is good. She has much better eyesight than I do at nighttime, but her best sense is her sense of hearing. Now, these feathers here, these are just feathers. These aren't even big yet. She's just completing a molt, and her feathers are just now growing in. On the males, they'll be 2 to 3 times that size. They look bigger that way. Her ears are these little crescent shapes right here. Your ears are these big fleshy things. Her ears that you can see are how the feathers look different here. They look just like frost or a snowflake for us. Yes, everybody hears you. Every other feather on her body is flat, and it's used for camouflage and blending into the background. The feathers that make up her ears, she has one ear hole high and one ear hole low by that beak. Have you ever watched an owl sometimes? They do that weird little head bob dance. What they're doing is they're listening to a single spot. She can hear something like a mouse breathe at 150 yards. And she waits for it to make a mistake. And as soon as it breaks cover, she flies under full power and she grabs a hold of it with these huge talons. And the prey has no idea what's happening because the owl's wings make no noise. This animal here will be able to grab a hold of something much bigger than themselves with these feet here. And with 500 pounds of pressure per square inch, she can kill an animal up to 45, 50 pounds. She has great nocturnal vision, but if you notice, the eyeballs will never move. There's no muscles to move those eyes. Because if you had owl-sized eyeballs in your head, you would have dodgeballs for eyeballs. And if you had dodgeball-sized eyeballs, you'd look funnier than the cameramen that are behind you right now. What you have to think of here is they will not move their eyes because they're too heavy. But instead, the owl has a very flexible neck. They can rotate their head 210 degrees. We have 7 vertebrae in our neck where she is going to have 14. So she can rotate her head, not all the way around. That's physically impossible. She can look all the way behind her and a little bit more, about 210 degrees. So great vision, even better hearing. But look at that nose. We've been talking about our animal senses, especially coming up here. She doesn't have a sense of smell. And with that, one of our owl's favorite things to eat, skunks. Because if you cannot smell them, skunks are actually a very common black and white animal that nobody else eats at nighttime for us. Now, Elle here is one of our programming birds. We also use her in abatement, which is where we use her to chase things away. Think of a golf course, a vineyard, where we have noxious birds we don't want. If I bring Elle out and we fly her, she earns her food by flying from perch to perch on command. And we just flew her last night from perch to perch, and that's how she earns her food for us. That's what's so special about this. This is not something to think of as a pet. This is a very strong, powerful animal that has to serve a purpose. But like our difference between snakes and lizards, when we look at her eyes, when I bring my finger by them, you can see she has a normal top to bottom eyelid, but then she has a second one that comes up underneath called that nictating membrane. It is a built-in pair of safety glasses, and she will cover her eyes with that if she's grabbing a hold or flying through the brush to be able to protect that eyesight for her. Now, in the raptor world, females are going to be bigger than males. So just like our leaf insects, you can see that difference, that sexual dimorphism. And that's what's so special about her. Now, for those of you that are Harry Potter fans, most of the birds used in the movies were Eurasian Eagle Owls. There's actually 17 different subspecies of the Eurasian Eagle Owls with a different size and colors. And I hate to tell you for the spoiler alert, Hedwig, this snowy owl, was actually a boy because the females are going to be completely white over their body. And that's the difference between that male and female for us. So friends, I want to thank you all for tuning in for our fall program with the Williamson County Public Library. And I want to thank my friends from WCTV for making it possible for us to reach out to all of our friends here. If you have any other questions or comments, you can always reach us online. You can email at bob@animalogy.org, and you can follow us at NHECM Animalogy on Facebook. We continue to have free public events that we air, as well as our social events are starting to come. We have some fall festivals where you can come see us in person. So I want to thank all my friends. Make sure you keep up with your reading, and we will see you all again as soon as we can. Thank you all. Bye-bye.